Hello, I'm Thomas Hamilton, registered dietitian with Personal Best Nutrition Consulting and a consultant to Level 10. I'm here today to present a brief nutrition presentation on what I consider the basics for a foundation for a healthy diet for the 60-day challenge that you're taking on with Level 10. And thank you for helping out the Street Culture Project. So let's get into it. The foundation of any healthy diet has to have water. And water and hydration is the foundation because we're losing water all the time through the process of respiration when we breathe, when we sweat, during your heavy workouts, and during the hot summers that we have in Saskatchewan, and then when we go to the bathroom. So we want to make sure that we're getting water throughout our day and regularly, and especially in preparation for physical activity. We get about 20% of our water from food, and I really want to emphasize the produce, your vegetables, your fruit, and in some cases dairy like milk or yogurt or soy. Prior to activity, I encourage you to top up and try and have your water about a half hour to 45 minutes beforehand, because that's the way to ensure that you're going to have water in your working muscles, and then that last trip to the bathroom before you work out. During your activity, just keep water around, be a sipper, try and drink earlier, and don't get too caught up in the quantity, but take the opportunity to drink in your breaks so that you're staying ahead of the game and not getting into severe dehydration. Dehydration happens over a longer period when you're working at really hot environments, so it shouldn't necessarily happen within, say, an hour and a half workout at level 10. But if you're going for that super long bike ride or that run plus another workout, and you're really starting to take on a lot of activity, go into your workouts hydrated, take water with you. And in recovery, it helps sometimes to have a little bit of carbohydrate or sodium, whether it's from food. Some people might use a sport drink, but for the most part, water and some healthy food is the great way to recover and get ready for your next workout. This slide summarizes a lot of what I want to talk about today, and it really is a nice display of what you should look at when it's time to have your meals. So let's go through it in a little more detail. So grains, which provide carbohydrate, are the foundation of a diet, especially if you're physically active. Some people are cutting back on carbohydrate in an effort to control weight or body composition, but it's really hard to adapt to your training routine if you're really low on grains. So they are nutritious and come in lots of variety. So I encourage you to look at different types of grains, or breads, or cereals, or pastas, even legumes as your source of carbohydrate at mealtime. All your meals should include a source of protein because it's important for the adaptation and recovery of your body as you put it through some of the stresses of your new workout during the 60-day challenge. So there's lots of different meat options, and we love to barbecue here in Saskatchewan in the summer times, but there's lots of non-meat options that you can use at other meals, whether it's things like Greek yogurt or soy or nuts and seeds, even beans, which is not uncommon in our household to use as part of a breakfast meal. Last but not least is the vegetables or the produce part of your meal. Vegetables should be a big part of your meal for helping keep up your immunity during the time of COVID, but anytime. It's a way to maximize nutrients that you can't really find anywhere else. So a third of your plate should include some kind of vegetable and or fruit. Fruit is a little higher source of carbohydrate, and if you're physically active, you should be including that for sure. I'll show you in a minute if we're trying to cut back a bit on shape and size, what your plate might look like. Complement all of your meals with a source of fat because it offers some satisfaction, but also nutrients and essential oils that you can't find anywhere else. So it might be in the form of dressings or nuts and seeds. Maybe it's some avocado on toast, cheese, which is one of my favorites. A little bit goes a long way when it comes to fats, and try and choose foods close to their natural source and incorporate it as part of a meal. And then last but not least are the different flavors and beverages, water being your number one. If you have undergone the 60-day challenge to help you get into shape and change your body composition, remember that body composition train is a long, slow one, and that's the one you want to be on. But we don't want to necessarily miss out on all the nutrients we need to fuel that training. So grains are reduced if we're trying to watch our shape and size. And if it's away from training, then you're usually pretty good. But if it's in the hours before training, it's going to be hard to get through a really hard workout. if your tank is empty. So what we do with people trying to control weight, or if you are trying to get a little lighter and leaner, is just reduce maybe the amount of grains that you're having at mealtime, but don't omit altogether. Increase your protein is a way to increase your satisfaction. There's nothing magical about it, but try and choose a leaner protein. We're not having our ribs and our higher fat steaks and that kind of thing. That doesn't necessarily help with weight management. The foundation still of your plate has to be produce, and we really put a lot of emphasis on the vegetables and cutting back a little bit on the fruit, but we still need a balance and complement that with a little bit of healthy fats from nuts or seeds or oils. So just to review, protein is really important for muscle recovery and strong immune system. In my practice of 26 years, what I commonly see is that people tend to have more of the protein at one meal or two meals, but they skip a little bit on their breakfast meal, or they don't have any as part of their bedtime snack after a hard evening of training. So try and find a convenient source of protein from a variety of sources. And I'm going to challenge you to try and find some non-meat sources. You don't have to be a vegetarian to start enjoying things like beans or lentils or nuts or seeds. Some people think meat or not meat is all or none, but there's that certainly gray area, and it's a great way to introduce yourself to a lot of different varieties of beans that are available here. So incorporate some beans maybe as a paste or into your tacos. You can put them on a cracker or have them as part of a wrap. So there's lots of different ways to incorporate beans and lentils and legumes. But protein is important. We're shooting for about 20 grams, which is the equivalent of a couple of eggs, or large eggs, right? And if you can, your decacard size of meat, or about 3/4 of a cup of lentils or beans. Here's a nice depiction of what we often see with my active people. They may skimp a little bit more on their breakfast meal for protein, and they don't have any as part of their nighttime snack if they've had some training. So if you eat, and when you eat, you try and have a bit of protein in the source of breakfast and lunch, supper, and then that bedtime snack if you've been active. So carbohydrate, as I mentioned, sometimes has a bad reputation, but it is the fuel to help your body adapt through all the physical changes you're trying to challenge it with. So it comes in the form of fruit, beans, lentils, rice, pasta. Milk products like milk or yogurt or soy are also pretty good sources of both carb and protein. And you should include 2 servings at a meal. A serving would be roughly a cup to 3/4 a cup, depending on the type of grain you're choosing, or it would be 3/4 a cup of yogurt or milk, and then a medium-sized piece of fruit, say the size of a baseball or a racquetball. The type of carbohydrate we really want to keep an eye on, especially if we're trying to change our shape and size, is the stuff that doesn't have any nutrient value. So this is some nice visuals on some of the treats that we might enjoy in the summertime and just how much simple sugar is in them. So it's not a no, no, never, never. It's more about controlling the quantity and the frequency. And Health Canada recommends about 10% of our diet only should come from simple sugars, so 6 to 8 teaspoons or sugar cubes. So think a little bit about how frequently am I having one of these treats, and what is the quantity of the size I'm having. So maybe you can get away with a small ice cream cone when you used to have a triple size blizzard. And then last but not least, emphasizing the healthy benefits of fat. We don't want to cut it out. We want to try and get quality. So the key here is frequency, and incorporating it as part of your meals is a good way to get some healthy fats and some satisfaction at meal times. And then try and choose ones that have a little more beneficial effect on the body, decreasing inflammation and providing some satisfaction. The ones we want to stay away from are the ones that tend to increase inflammation, and those are the more your higher fat meat sources, higher fat dairy, so your cheeses, and then certainly your snack foods. We want to reduce the frequency and the size of those, and then get more of the beneficial ones. That will help in the long run with your stiffness or soreness, and help a lot with fueling your training as well. So going back to building a meal, I want you, if you can, to challenge yourself with a different type of grain this week. Maybe it's as part of your breakfast meal. It's a muesli or a granola type cereal that you've created from a grain with some nuts and seeds. Maybe you've mixed it with some soy or yogurt. Maybe you put that in a smoothie. There's lots of different types of breads and tortillas and wraps. You can even use crisp breads or whole grain crackers as part of your grain, maybe as part of your salad during your lunch hour. There's certainly many kinds of rice, and I encourage you to choose more dark or whole grain rice. And the sweet potato, everyone seems to be aware that it's really nutritious, but even just your regular small potatoes are really nutritious and low calorie. And there's lots of different quinoas or couscous, spelt, fancy grains that we consume in other parts of the world, but are really quite plentiful here in Canada. So maybe it's you're going to make a different type of grain salad based on some of these. From a protein standpoint, here again is a list of some options. The ones that are in red are less desirable because of the calories, but they still can be nutritious and part of your routine. And then we've highlighted beans, whether it's in the form of a hard bean that you might put in a taco as part of a salad, or you make it into a paste that you might have on a tortilla or as part of a wrap. So there's lots of different options. Try and find a source of protein in the morning that can help you make that meal last a little bit longer and turn the thermostat up a little bit. Veggies, I don't care what form you want to enjoy them, but this is the time to do it, whether it's from your own garden, grandma's garden, or the farmer's market. Try and find a different vegetable and a different way to jazz it up. Maybe it's raw, maybe it's cooked, maybe it's steamed. There's lots of different ways to enjoy it. So milk or soy products, like the milks or cheeses, are a great way to give protein and carb and a nice complement to most meals. And then, of course, all the different flavors. The sauce is being highlighted here in red because they tend to add a lot of calories in the form of sugar and those sugar cubes. So try and minimize those. And then your dressings should be a little more on the thinner side. So if you can read a newspaper through them, then you're off to the races. But there's so many different herbs and spices that you might be getting from your garden that you might want to jazz up your foods with. Some people suggest, I need to have a snack, or I want to have a snack, or how much should I snack? It really is quite individual. So you might want to sit down with your nutrition professional and determine, do I need it as part of my training, or do I need it as part of my day? It can help reduce some hunger and overeating at meal times. But when it comes to combination snacks, they're a combination of carbohydrate and protein, and usually recommend, say, an hour before training, and in the hours after, or in the minutes after, if you are requiring a snack. So there's lots of options that you can choose from. I encourage you to look at this list and say, hey, gee, there's one I haven't tried. Maybe it's a hummus with pita, or maybe you want to dip just vegetables in your hummus. You can make your own protein shake, which is really just a combination of carb and protein, which I tend to prefer as opposed to just pure protein. Maybe it's something off the wall like kippers on toast. There's lots of different options in this list, and some of these are more convenient than others, but I encourage you to find one or two that you're going to have in your new arsenal, and you could add it to your routine in the hour before a heavy training, let's say late afternoon if you're working out after work, or maybe as part of your bedtime snack when you get back from that real long bike ride. So there's lots of this kind of stuff available to us, especially during the summer months. But I encourage you to challenge yourself with how frequent am I having this? And do I really need that quantity that I normally consume? So a little bit less is better, and enjoy every morsel when you do have it. Because there's so many other good food options that I will encourage you to explore more often. And be realistic with yourself when you're making these dietary changes. Small changes that are going to be permanent are really what we're trying to shoot for. Because I've given you a little bit of knowledge today, I hope, on understanding quality, maybe a little bit on quantity, but you need to gain an understanding of why am I eating, and how do I get this way, and maybe you need to sit down with a nutrition professional to sort of give you some guidance. But develop some skills, and that's what eating is, as is cooking, as is shopping. Develop some of those skills, apply some of this knowledge, and if you've got the desire, we can make some changes. So again, just touching on a couple things in food skills, Grocery shopping is really where it all begins. So make a conscious effort to stay to the outside aisles and buying something a little bit different that you haven't had before in a quantity that you're going to give it a try. Focus on simplicity because simplicity is sustainable. And then when it comes to label reading is good for just comparing products. It's really, you don't send people to the store just to buy fiber or just to buy low fat, but find a product that you're using regularly and maybe compare it to the one beside it for its fiber content, its calorie content, that kind of thing. Last but not least, cooking skills. If you brought it home from the store, now we got to find a way to cook it. There's lots of good websites, and I'll recommend some in my next video or with some recipes. But there's lots of stuff out there, and I think the key is keep it simple. Try not to go overboard. You want something sustainable that you're going to repeat, and then don't be afraid to experiment a little bit with different portions or different sizes or different spices and that will help you with your cooking. So portion your protein out, especially for breakfast. I find that can help a little bit when people are forgetting to add a quality protein, is to surround yourself with good quality. So last but not least, let's put these daily actions in practice and think about it as a skill, and that will help you achieve your goal. It takes many workouts to get in shape, and it takes many good quality meals and habits to help change body composition and get the nutrients you need. So focus on a little bit better every day, and that'll help you in the long run. Some people like to jump into diets from a leap standpoint, and they go to a new trendy diet. Maybe it's keto or paleo or intermittent fasting. And every diet has some advantages. But the key here is this going to work for you in the long run? And is it going to help or hinder your training routine? So generally what we try and focus on as dietitians is getting people to make some habits and behavior changes that are going to stick. So seek out some help if you need to, but be realistic with yourself. Make one or two changes and make it part of your regular routine and build upon that success so that you'll be with this and stay on this for a long time. So that's my presentation. If you have any concerns or questions, you could contact me through Level 10. And there's a couple of dietitian consultants from Personal Best Nutrition that can help you out. But again, thank you for taking on the 60-day challenge and for helping out the Street Culture Project.